Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Friday follow-up in the continuing journey of accountability. Today, I would like to talk about the number 7. And there's more than 7 reasons why I want to do this, but 7 is a unique number. Some of us consider that a lucky number. I like seeing 7s line up when I'm at the casino, which, by the way, at the casino, that's the only place we don't want you to lose. So anyway, yes, that's that type of morning, folks. It's been a long week, and the temps of humor will be challenging and stressed. So how unique is the number of 7? 7 appears a lot of times in our lives. There's 7 days in a week. There's 7 continents, 7 deadly sins, 7 dwarfs. So it keeps on popping up. The combinations of various numbers. It's easy to roll a 7 if you're playing with dice. 7 is a prime number. And it's been found that people can maintain or at least recite a series of 7 numbers. After you go beyond 7, people will tend to forget their numbers. And I can prove that to you because just think, how many numbers are in your phone number? Excluding the area code, your phone number is 7 numbers. There's got to be a reason for it. We can remember it. Doesn't explain why Social Security number has more than 7 numbers, but that's besides the point, and maybe will show up in a different talk. But anyway, going back to the number 7, what struck me is that whenever somebody wants to put out a message or to get somebody's attention, albeit sharing news and facts about what's going on in TOPS Nation, or if you're in marketing, the old adage is people have to hear things 7 times before they actually get it, hear it, or really pay attention to it, which explains why in marketing, you're constantly being bombarded by the same message. And I think we can use that idea or thought process as we go forward with our healthy lifestyle. We constantly need to hear the message over and over and over. The challenge that I've often said is that I want to say the same thing 7 different ways, so that maybe at one of the ways it will catch somebody's attention. Or we just can't rely on one way to send a message. I just can't say something like, and I don't have anything brand new for you folks today, but if say there was a major change going on, I just can't say it today on a Friday morning where there's just several 10,000s of people listening to me this morning. That's a little exaggeration in the marketing world. But the point being is, if I just say it here, only so many people will hear it. Now, the idea is you will take this message and continue to share it, and it goes on, so it will actually reach more people, but we can't rely on just one venue. That's why we will put the same messages in the blog, in TOPS News. We relay it to our field staff to get it to the chapter level. Online folks get it through webinars. So we have to constantly, I think that was 7 times, remind people on what we're about and what we need to do to help people get a healthy lifestyle and lose weight. It's not a one and done thing. That's why I'm not talking about the number 1. Maybe there's 7 ways that you can adapt your habits or your routine that will help you go forward. How about this? Since there's 7 days in a week, why not make one minor tweak in your daily schedule each day? And at the end of the week, you'll have 7 different things that you've changed and see what happens. And I'm talking not major stuff, just minor things. Day 1, make sure you have a glass of water before you sit down to a meal. If you're already doing that one, maybe have 2 glasses. On the second day, before you sit down to have a meal, walk around the house a couple of times before you sit down. Just do these little things that may help you trigger a new habit, a new way of doing things. And of course, if you find a nice change that fits in your style, do it 7 times so you really get the message. It is a challenge, folks, to get information out to everyone. And it's also a challenge to ourselves to stay reminded. Now, I thought I was going to try to get a little cute here and try to say things 7 different ways throughout the talk, or use 7,777 words in this talk. But like I said, folks, it's been a rough week. That's where we can continue to go forward with these things as we look for challenges, and we have to keep on challenging ourselves. Like I said, maybe during the next week, call 7 different friends, call 7 different people who are not in tops, and reach out to them. People that you know, people that maybe haven't seen you in a while. I was recently reminded that some folks were coming into town for a reunion, and we hadn't seen them in a while, and said, well, they might not recognize you because they remember you way back in the day when you hadn't lost your weight. It's things like that that kind of put a different spin, a different look, if you will, on what we're really doing here, folks. What are we really doing here? So that's my take on 7. There's a lot of things when you look up 7. I read a lot, and sometimes that's where I get myself in trouble. I got so many things that I read about that I want to share that they kind of come bombarding into my 7 neurons that are floating around in my head. I would like to go back in my history, my family history, and see how many 7 sons of the 7 sons were, because apparently if that happens, you're going to be a healthy person. But some parts of the world, if you're the 7th son of a 7th son, you're going to turn into a werewolf. I told you, 7 is a really, really weird number, but fun. Again, a real fun number, where I think that maybe that's why, and I don't know, folks. I did some digging and tried to find out. Maybe some of you know, but I'm sure you know what I'm going to say. The 7 pounds below goal that cops have for their part of their leeway, 3 above and 7 below. What's so magical about that 7 number? Well, let me just wrap up with this, folks. Many times I get questions on why it's 3 above and 3 below. 3 above and 7 below. Told you it was a rough week, folks. Well, I'm not really sure. Maybe it was to commemorate the fact that they got their goal, and 7 is a lucky number, and they can kind of stay within that range and hope they stay lucky. Some folks, well, why isn't it 5? Ask, why isn't it 5 above, 5 below, 3 below, 7 above? However you want to play around with the number 10, it doesn't really matter. It's just a range, and you can use a range and stay in it with it. And I think it's kind of cool having a lucky 7 to play with, and I mean that in a respectful way, to go up and down within that 7 pounds as a cops. And one of the other things that I wanted to mention today is that also too, I'm well aware, and I get questions again about, some folks don't want to get into that 7 pound range. They don't want to become a cops. They're close to their goal that they got between them and their healthcare provider, and they don't want the pressure of maintaining a cop status. Despite that, we've got those let's call them 7 lucky pounds to work with, and that's fine, folks. That's fine, because what are we here for? There's 7 different reasons, probably, or more than that, than what we're here for. But the fact that a TOPS member is close to their goal and chooses not to declare cop status, that's fine, because they've already achieved their objective. They're healthier. They're at their goal weight. Again, whether you're a few pounds above or below that goal weight, it will not influence your overall health. It's just a couple of pounds either way. And I think we've got to start thinking about or not honing in so much on that 1 or pound or 2 pounds that may get you away from that goal status. The overall concept is what is most important, that you are healthier at that section or that range, I think that's the better word, that range, than you were before you even started with TOPS. So yeah, we can have fun with the number 7. If you want to try to stay within that range of 7, have at it. It doesn't really matter. The core thing is that we want everybody to be healthy, comfortable, and share the good feelings that they have. So this kind of a sneaky way to use the number 7 to get to something that I really wanted people to hear and understand, that the 7 pounds below goal doesn't matter if it was 7, 8, 9, 3, 2, 1, whatever you want to make it. Think about why you joined TOPS, how much progress you've made since you've joined TOPS, and focus on that. That is what the key component is. And if you want to know more about 7, you can always Google, Yahoo, or whatever search engine you use on the computer. And despite what I hear, I know most of you know how to use a computer. Sometimes computers can be challenging, but Google the power of 7 and how many ways 7 appears, I think, going in our lives. And ironically, if you want to look up facts of 7, they'll give you the top 10. Why isn't it the top 7? I don't know. But anyway, I hope everything goes well the next 7 days as you try to make little tweaks in your daily rituals. And for that journey of accountability, I'm happy to report that last week when I talked about having a good talk with myself, it worked. And I had a loss last night. I lost 4.8 pounds. It felt good, folks. It was really, really nice to step on that scale and have that 4.8 pound loss. And if for those of you who happened to miss last week's Friday follow-up, remember, you can go to YouTube and see the replay. And if you missed it, I want to know why you missed it. But anyway, I mentioned the fact that we have to find ways to keep ourselves accountable beyond the scale. The scale is just one part. And I said that for several weeks, almost 7, ironic, I had gained every week. Now, sometimes it was 0.2, 0.8, pound and a half. It varied, but it was a constant gain going forward for all these weeks. And for some reason, even looking at that, it just didn't hit me. And we will have these discussions going on, folks, on whether or not it's important to weigh in every week or anything like that. We just want you to go to the meeting and get motivated and get support. And if you're having a rough time at the scale, just let that go aside a bit and just focus on other things, like I said, on how you feel. But the point being is, seeing all those red marks, it wasn't enough to get my attention. Going back to the power of 7, maybe if I had seen the 7th week in a row that I had gained, maybe that would have got my attention. But it wasn't working, folks. What got my attention was the fact that when I got dressed to go to the meeting, my pants did not fit. That got my attention, folks. That's one way to help ourselves keep accountable. And just that break-even point, if you will, just losing those 4.8 pounds, the pants fit this week. So I'm not going to just say, hey, the party's I'm over and I've succeeded and I'm done. No, I have to keep on going. But just as I had mentioned about try to change something each week in our ritual, daily ritual, why don't we try to find 7 different ways to keep ourselves accountable? Because we might not have access to a scale daily, but we have other things in our lives, that are around us that can keep us accountable. I've talked about in the past my belt. There's so many holes on the belt, and I mean so many holes, and you can go up and down all those holes, and if you get to that last one, it's Panicville, because the belt's not gonna fit. Having Ann around helps me keep accountable, because she's gonna just respectfully and politely say, did you really want that? Are you going to eat now, or what's going on? It's finding ways to keep ourselves accountable. Maybe 7 is enough, maybe it's not, but let's see what happens, and I'll talk to you next Friday.